Good day to everyone and dear friends. You're most warmly welcome to the world of university sports today. My name is Hilkka Laitinen and I'm a member of FISU Gender Equality Committee. I also work as Secretary General in Finnish Student Sports Federation, so you're very welcome to my country as well. Today we will tell you more about FISU, which is International University Sports Federation, and university sports in general, and the challenges we face in our everyday work regarding gender equity. We will also give some examples about women's success stories in university sports. Work on gender equity is rather new in FISU. We definitely have work to do, but most importantly, the work has started. Our speakers today are Mrs. Alison Odell, FISU First Assessor and Chair of Education Committee. Give some applause. Mrs. Rosaura Mendez, FISU Assessor, Chair of Gender Equality Committee. Penninah Kabenge, FISU Assessor, Vice Chair of Gender Equality Committee. Mrs. Sima Limoochi, a member of FISU Gender Equality Committee. Ms. Natasha Campos, member of FISU Students Commission. There is she. And Ms. Lotte Uutinen, member of FISU Student Committee. Our first presentation is about overview about FISU, its history and its activities. Please welcome on stage Mrs. Alison Odell and Mrs. Penninah Kabenge.
Good evening, everybody. As a backdrop to our presentation today, and to offer some meaning to our state of growth aligned to issues of gender equality within FISU, Alison and I will run through the headings as briefly as possible, but believe it will be useful context for Rosaura, for what Rosaura will talk about. FISU was officially formed in 1949, but its origins goes back to 1920s when Frenchman Jean Petitjean organized the first World Student Games in Paris in May 1923. The following year, the International Confederation of Students associated itself with this movement. Many great sporting events were organized from 1925 to 1939 in different places. The beginning, the peace was relative, and the shadow of the Cold War soon divided university sport. In 1946, the International Students' Union was created to pursue the works of the International Confederation of Students, and it organized the 9th World University Games in 1947. After those games, the increasing politicization of the ISU led to a division within the university sports movement In 1948, the International Universal Sports Federation was created, and it launched the International Universal Sports Week in 1949 in Merano, Italy. Other editions followed in Luxembourg, 1959, Dortmund, 1953, and San Sebastian in 1955. In 1957, the French Federation organized a World University Sports Championship, which brought together students from the Eastern and Western blocs. From this meet arose the desire to organize a universal event in which students from all over the world could participate. In 1959, FISU and ISU agreed to participate in the games organized in Turin, Italy by CUSI, the Italian Student Sports Association. That year was undoubtedly the one that left the biggest impression on our federation. In fact, the Italian organizers baptized these 1959 games Universiade. They created a flag with a U surrounded by stars, which was to begin its journey around the world and replace the national anthems at the medal awarding ceremonies with Grande Masse Igatoire, the FISU anthem. The Universiade in Turin was a success for the local executive committee, as well as for the man who was to change the future of the university sports movement, Dr. Primo Nebbiolo. During the Universiade, this brought together 43 countries and 1,400 participants. Many non-members federations applied to become members of FISU. However, even though university sports was developing in a peaceful environment, the modus vivendi still needed to be established. In addition to the agreement that had been made concerning national symbols and the programs, FISU defined its philosophy in Article 2 of its statutes by stipulating that FISU pursues its objects without consideration or discrimination of a political, denominational, or racial nature. From then on, FISU was to organize the games at worldwide level. FISU structure. Our membership is comprised of the National University Sports Federation from around the world. Looking at our membership from 1949, we have slowly risen from an original 9 to today's 167 member federations. Since 2007, we have accepted 5 continental federations as associate members, which means that these supranational federations are indeed represented on the main executive committee, but without the power to vote. They are perceived, above all, as a strong part of the communication network within FISU, but each has very distinct characteristics and differing stages of development. Our structure then is as above in broad terms. You will note that we have an executive committee of 23 voting members elected by the General Assembly every 4 years, plus the 5 continental heads without voting rights. Currently, there are 5 directly elected female members of the executive committee, an improvement on the situation which Alison encountered in 1999 when she and Karis from Estonia became the only second and third women to hold such positions. In a little more detail, you see that we have a senior officer group, the steering group, which can and does often meet more frequently than the executive committee to deal with urgent matters and shift policy issues for onward recommendation to the executive committee. Since 2011, this group has had its first female member, Alison Odell, as the first senior assessor. Our human resources distribution is, as you see here, highly reliant on volunteers, the FISU family. The FISU headquarters are in Lausanne, alongside quite a number of other international federations. We moved there in 2012 and are planning an expansion by 2017 on the campus of University of Lausanne. Our Brussels building is now the headquarters of our foundation. I'll, at this juncture, call upon my colleague, Alison, to take you through the rest of the history of FISU. You're welcome, Alison.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you very much, Penninah. So what do we do with all these resources? Well, we have a very large events program in some ways. Our major events occur on a biannual basis, as far as our games, the Universiade and championships are concerned, with Universiade taking place in uneven years and championships in even-numbered years. Similarly, on the educational side, the conferences are normally attached to the winter or the summer Universiade, and the forum takes place in a championship year, but away from any specific sporting event. The Sport Education Summit you see here is available for internal or external organizations to bid for, normally to attach to or align with another major event, and is intended as an opportunity for senior influencers at national, governmental, and senior academic level in the world of sport and university sport to come together and address key strategic issues. Our sporting events currently do have some restrictions attached in terms of age limits for our student participants, as you might perhaps suspect. But we do strive to make the balance of sports on offer open equally to men and to women. In our history since 1959, we've staged the following volume of major events. And starting early in March this year and running until December, we are, of course, in the 2014 World University Championships year, which will include a FISU record equaling 29 events in a single year, this time in 24 countries and over the 5 continents, 17 in Europe, 8 in Asia, 2 in Americas, 1 in Africa, and 1 in Oceania. And what's very pleasing to us is the championships will take place for the first time in 6 countries, in Belarus, India, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates. Just to add a little more detail to the sporting picture, these are the key parameters for a summer Universiade. As you can see, in terms of scale, it's probably the second major multi-sport event relative to the Olympic Games. Over 10,500 participants. And as, if not more importantly, is staged at twice the frequency. So you can only dream of the resource that requires sometimes. As you can see, our Summer Games has grown massively in size in the last 20 years, as we, like other major multi-sport event organizations, are conscious of economic and structural dynamics which this can impose on both hosts and our ability to support this. Our Winter Games are not dissimilar in terms of relative size, albeit, of course, fewer members are able to field teams in this type of activity. And the growth profile for the Winter Universiade is not dissimilar, in fact. The championships offer tremendous opportunities to members to attend large international events, especially as a start point at building teams to attend full Universiade. Similarly, for members wishing to stage an international event, the championships are an excellent learning route for many countries towards staging more major events. The education side of FISU activity is monitored and managed by a committee of 12 persons. And as the chair of that group, I'm very happy to say it's the only committee, but I am very pleased that it should spread more widely, which is gender equal according to statute. 6 men, 6 women. And we're a mix of academics and managers on that group. The primary objectives of that group are to promote the scientific study of university sport through conferences, forums, reports, publications, lectures, and all other appropriate measures. We're there to gather knowledge about university sport, establish knowledge management about university sport, support the continual improvement of the quality of national and local university sport through sharing outputs, engage with and support through partnership both our internal committees in educational matters and external organisations which promote similar education objectives to those of FISU, hence why we are here this week as a partner for IWG. We're there to advise on the management and support of contracted relationships between FISU and other agencies, that might be universities, foundations, external agencies, through which FISU aims to benefit its members through the education-sport mix. And we're there very much to take an active part in educational events organised by national or international agencies in order to present and promote our own aims and goals. And I'm also keen to indicate, you'll have seen Eurosport round here this week, that the various media through which FISU communicates with its membership is listed here. And of course, outwardly, I would like to recommend our regular monthly news magazine, Campos Sport, which is put out by Eurosport. It's an excellent way to discover the huge range of activity within our organisation across sport and education through sport. And in thinking about setting context today, we've just pulled together a few figures which demonstrate the backdrop into which FISU operates. This context in which we're constantly developing programmes and ethos is, of course, higher or tertiary education. The universities are, in most cases, the members of our member federations. A quick glance at the UNESCO World Atlas on Gender Equality in Tertiary Education reveals the explosive growth in entry into higher education. And although access to higher education remains problematic in many countries, the last 4 decades have brought a major expansion of higher education in every region of the world, and women have been the principal beneficiaries in all regions. Female enrolment at the tertiary level has grown almost twice as fast as that of men over the last 4 decades, for reasons that include social mobility, enhanced income potential, and international pressure to narrow the gender gap. Nevertheless, enhanced access to higher education by women is not always translated into enhanced career opportunities, including the opportunity to use the doctorates in the field of research, and likewise their participation at the highest level in the university sport movement. I think we're still playing catch-up in some ways. Total enrolment at the tertiary level soared from 32 million students in 1970 to 165 million in 2009, an increase of around 500%. The gross enrolment ratio is below 20% in 43% of the 158 countries mapped, and falls between 20 and 50% in a quarter. Another quarter, about 26% of the countries, fall between 50 to 80% range. And the gross enrolment ratio above 80% only occurs in 9 nations. Overall enrolment figures, however, do not tell the whole story. As seen here, although every region of the world has experienced a surge in tertiary enrolment, the most dramatic gains have been recorded in regions that had the lowest levels of enrolment in 1970, and which continue to record modest enrolment levels to this day. Tertiary enrolments in 2009 were 24 times the 1970 figure in sub-Saharan Africa, and 17 times in the Arab states. Enrolments multiplied 15-fold in East Asia and the Pacific, which now boasts the highest tertiary education enrolment of any region, 52 million. Enrolments in North America and Western Europe rose by 250%, but the region's share of total tertiary enrolment dropped from nearly half in 1970 to less than a quarter in 2009. So what are we saying? Well, women have been the prime beneficiaries of this surge in tertiary enrolment, with the number of women enrolling in tertiary institutions growing almost twice as fast as men over the last 4 decades. But the comparable ratio for women tripled during this period from 8 to 28%. But have we seen this reflected in any way in the university sport movement? I'm going to pass that to Rosaura in a minute or two. Women now account for a majority of students in most countries, and this map depicts the gender parity index at the tertiary level for 149 countries. It shows that women are favoured in a sizable majority of 93 countries, while men are favoured in only 46. 10 countries have achieved gender parity at the tertiary level. So again, what are we saying? Are we seeing female engagement in sport participation and in young leadership roles matching these broad indicators? Again, I'm hoping Rosaura will tell you a little more later. Of course, what we learn at school, secondary level education around health and physical activity, plays a role in the value placed on female levels of engagement in all sorts of ways. But so saying, higher education is also the place where we can still improve on women's opportunities to participate in all aspects of sport and education through sport. And of course, national wealth plays an important role in shaping the ways in which men and women participate in tertiary education. Women are more likely to pursue tertiary education in countries with relatively high income and less likely to do so in low-income countries. Even modest rises in national wealth correlate with lower levels of gender disparities. And at this stage of our growth, this is probably a signal of where we are in FISU. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Before next speech, I have an honor to invite on stage Mrs. Raija Mattila and Mrs. Rosaura Mendez from FISU. We have had a great cooperation on last year's together with IWG, and this cooperation has definitely given us some new tools to promote gender equality in FISU. So we want to thank Mrs. Mattila for this.
Am I allowed to say some words here for thanks? So, yeah, Rosaura, other friends, thank you so much for this wonderful present and expression of appreciation. The appreciation goes back to FISU, and I would like to thank you for being our partner in this conference. It means a lot to IWG because, of course, universities are the future for the world. And we just heard that in many parts of the world, girls and women are dominating as students in universities. So it is a very important sector where physical activity and sport can be enhanced. And just for those who perhaps don't know that, I was also, many years ago, a member of the Finnish Student Sports Federation governing board and still member of the honorary committee of that organization. So I am, in a way, actively involved in university sport personally as well. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Mrs. Rosaura Mendez, and she will talk about women in university sports. She will introduce us the actions that have been taken on gender equity and inclusion of women on late years. What's the situation in universities and what challenges has FISU faced? Please.
Good afternoon again.
Después de 20 años de realización de la conferencia, esta vez es la vez primera que FISU participa como partner. Así que quiero agradecer a Ryan Matilda por habernos acogido en esta actividad, en esta sexta conferencia.
20 years have elapsed since the conference, and this is the first time FISU participates as a partner, and that's the reason why I was keen in thanking Raya Mattila for the participation in this sixth IWJ conference.
Quiero saludar a la asesora de la FISU, a Caris Up, que se encuentra en la sala, a quien pido un aplauso.
I want to greet the FISU assessor, Caris Hoop, who is in the room, for which I call for a clap of hands.
También saludo a Hanna Humomen de la Federación Finlandesa de Deporte Universitario.
I also want to greet Hanna Humonen from Finnish Student Sport Federation,
Organización modelo en nuestra federación.
who is an organization parallel to our organization.
La FISU y la IWG son organizaciones que están convencidas de la importancia del trabajo en conjunto para construir el cambio.
Both organizations are convinced of the importance of working together to build the change.
Unidos somos capaces de transformar la sociedad y construir un mundo mejor.
United, we are able to transform society and build a fair world.
La creatividad es inventar, es experimentar, es crecer, es correr riesgos, es romper las reglas, es equivocarse y divertirse. Frase de la estadounidense Mary Lou Cook.
Creativity is inventing, experimenting, growing, taking risks, breaking rules, making mistakes, and having fun. This is a quote from Mary Lou Cook from the United States.
Bueno, y quiero que levanten la mano los que se consideran creativos.
And I wish that those of you who consider to be creative would raise a hand.
¿Quiénes somos creativos?
Oh, are we creative persons?
Yes, yes, yes.
Good.
Ahora, quiero que se pongan de pie
Now, I want you to stand up.
los creativos que tienen el compromiso de hacer el cambio.
Creative persons who are committed to making the change. Stand up.
Up. Okay.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
FISU nace en el seno de las universidades
FISU was born within universities,
en sinergia con los valores y los objetivos de las instituciones de educación superior universitaria.
FISU was born within universities in synergy with the values and objectives of higher education institutions.
El deporte en la universidad no se debe concebir como un simple requisito académico.
Sport at university should not be seen as a mere academic requirement.
Debe ser un derecho universal para todos los estudiantes que la conforman.
It should be a universal right for each student.
El deporte es un componente fundamental para la educación y la cultura,
Sport is a fundamental component of education and culture,
capaz de formar profesionales integrales con habilidades especiales para liderar los cambios.
capable of forming comprehensive professionals with special skills to lead the change.
Las estrellas de hoy serán los líderes del mañana.
The stars of today will be the leaders of tomorrow.
Y para eso vamos a ver un video.
And for this, I want to show you a video.
In life and sport, dealing with the challenges ahead requires focus, concentration, and a will to succeed. The International University Sports Federation promotes sports values in tune with the academic spirit. Thousands of student athletes from around the world participate in FISU's world-class sport competitions. Today's stars, tomorrow's leaders.
La incorporación de la mujer en el deporte ha enfrentado barreras culturales y sociales que todos conocemos.
The incorporation of women in sport has faced cultural and social barriers that we all know.
Nuestra organización FISU nace en las primeras décadas del siglo anterior y se fortalece en los años 60 nuestra organización se ha sumado a esa lucha para el cambio social.
FISU, an organization founded in the early decades of the previous century, has strengthened in the 60s, has joined this fight for social change.
Estos líderes de la educación superior han luchado por incorporar desde sus inicios la participación de la mujer en todos sus escenarios, gracias a la misión formativa propia de la universidad.
These higher education leaders have struggled to incorporate from the very beginning the participation of women in all spheres thanks to the very training mission of university education.
En nuestra historia encontramos que la primera participación en eventos deportivos en nuestra organización data de 1930, fecha en que en la ciudad de Darmstadt, Alemania, se realiza el primer campeonato internacional de estudiantes.
Looking back at our history, we found out that the first participation in sports events in our organization dates back to 1930. It was in Darmstadt, Germany, at the International Students' Championship.
Y en cuanto a la dirigencia deportiva, ya en 1983, Zhang Jing de China fue electa como primera asesora de nuestro comité ejecutivo e inicia el capítulo de participación de mujeres en roles administrativos y toma de decisiones para y por las mujeres.
As far as leader positions are concerned in our organization, already in 1983, Zhang Jiang of China was elected as the first advisor of FISU Executive Committee, and a new chapter of participation of women in administrative roles and decision-making was launched.
Desde la década de los 90 se ha incrementado la participación de las mujeres en nuestra organización. Actualmente contamos con 7 mujeres en el comité ejecutivo que trabajan junto a los demás comités en todo su quehacer para fortalecerla.
From the 90s, increased participation of women in the organization is observable. Currently, FISU has 7 female representatives on the executive committee working along the other committees.
Algunos datos importantes sobre políticas y programas que quiero mencionar es que desde 1987 se inicia el programa de ayuda de nuestra organización a países emergentes que se fortalece desde 1991, a partir de 1991, con la Universidad de Sheffield.
Speaking about policies and programs, I can say that in 1987 starts the assistance program for emerging countries. It is strengthened in 1991 during the games in the Sheffield Universiada.
Esta ayuda consiste en el pago de 3 tiquetes o la participación completa para 3 representantes de los países emergentes para la Universidad de Verano. Obligatoriamente deben ser 2 atletas, un hombre y una mujer, y un hombre o mujer que los acompaña como oficiales o como sus entrenadores.
This assistance consists in paying 3 tickets to participate in the summer Universiada. And it was mandatory to have 2 athletes, a man and a woman, and additionally a delegate who could be an official or a coach.
En el 2013 se amplía a 2 plazas la ayuda para que delegados puedan acompañar a las delegaciones.
In 2013, it was expanded to 2 seats, two possibilities for support of delegates promoting gender equity in leadership positions.
Los estatutos de nuestra organización obligan a realizar cualquiera de los eventos deportivos que ya describió Alison, que debe ser en ambos géneros. Si se desarrolla un campeonato, debe desarrollarse tanto para mujeres como para hombres.
The statutes also require our organization to set any of the sporting events already described by Mrs. Alison Odell for both genders, being a championship or whatever.
Para fortalecer la incorporación de la mujer en puestos administrativos en nuestra organización, se constituyó en el año 2007 la Comisión de Mujer y Deporte.
To strengthen the participation of women in administrative positions in university sports, the Committee on Women and Sport was established in 2007.
Esta comisión estaba integrada por representantes del Comité Ejecutivo.
That commission was composed by all FISU Executive Committee women.
En el 2011, esta comisión se transforma en una comisión permanente con presupuesto y capacidad de acción.
In 2011, this committee becomes a standing committee with a budget and action capacity.
Este comité está integrado por mujeres de los 5 continentes,
This committee was composed of women from 5 continents,
integrado por un representante enlace de cada continente.
There was a liaison member from every continent.
Nuestro comité se reúne al menos una vez al año, participa en los diferentes eventos deportivos FISU y su principal actividad consiste en asesorar al comité ejecutivo de la FISU en cuanto a políticas de igualdad de género.
So this committee meets at least once a year and it participates in all FISU sport and academic events. It is the main advisor on gender equity to the executive committee.
Nuestro comité ha desarrollado sus términos de referencia.
Our committee has drafted his terms of reference,
En donde queda claros la misión, la visión y los objetivos aprobados por la Asamblea de nuestra organización.
where we have the mission and the vision of our organization, which is approved by the Assembly.
Nuestro comité desarrolla diferentes actividades, la mesa redonda y espacios para discusión,
Our committee develops different activities,
investigaciones y publicaciones,
roundtable and spaces for discussion, research and publications,
relaciones con otras similares y afines,
relations with other similar organizations and alter,
y participa en todos los eventos educativos que se organicen.
and it participates in all educational and academic FISU events.
Una de las actividades o de los programas más importantes que tenemos en nuestro comité es el Premio de la Igualdad de Género.
One of the most important programs of our committee is the Award for Gender Equity.
El objetivo de este premio consiste en fomentar y reconocer proyectos modelos para todos los países, regiones y continentes que fortalezcan la igualdad de género.
So it aims to encourage and acknowledge projects that are strengthening gender equality that can be model for other countries.
Provee al ganador un premio de 6.000 euros que deben ser distribuidos e invertidos en el desarrollo del programa galardonado.
So, it provides the winner a prize of a certain amount of money that to be invested in development of the project.
En agosto del presente año lanzaremos la 4ª edición e invitamos a enviar sus propuestas para ser parte del cambio con nuestra organización.
In August of the current year, we will launch the 4th edition, and we invite you to be part of the change, sending your proposals.
Aquí encontramos los 3 primeros proyectos galardonados en los últimos 6 años.
Here we can find the 3 first projects who got a prize.
Otro programa importante en nuestro comité es la mesa redonda.
Another important project is the round table.
Nos ofrece la oportunidad de reunirnos y compartir experiencias con mujeres líderes de organizaciones similares que trabajan en el ámbito de la igualdad de género.
It gives us the opportunity to meet and share experience with female leaders of similar organizations working in the field of gender.
En el 2013, en los Juegos Mundiales Universitarios, tuvimos la oportunidad de contactar con la participación de destacadas líderes mundiales, entre ellas Raya Matila, para todos conocidos, Elida Alfaro de España, Elizabeth Brett, representante de la Federación de Corfball.
At the 2013 World University Games, prominent leaders participated, including Raya Matila, co-chair of IWJ, that you all know, also Elida Alfaro from Spain, and Elizabeth Brett, representing the International Federation of Korfball.
Se destaca en nuestra organización la participación en los eventos académicos, que desde el 2010 se incorporan los temas de igualdad de género. Esto propicia la invitación de igual número de hombres y mujeres expositores a estos eventos.
It is also to be noted that since 2010, in all academic events organized by FISU, the issue of gender equality is incorporated. This fosters the invitation of an equal number of men and women as speakers.
En cuanto a publicaciones, hemos asumido una política de igualdad de género en la comunicación. En cuanto a reportajes, imágenes, videos y demás publicaciones, deben tener un lenguaje inclusivo.
As far as publications are concerned, we have assumed a policy of gender equality in communication. Reports, pictures, videos, and other publications should use inclusive language.
A continuación, les muestro algunas estadísticas de la participación de nuestras mujeres en el deporte universitario, en particular en la Universidad de Verano.
I've now put on the screen some statistics of women participation in our organization.
Como pueden observar, tenemos números muy alentadores. Un 41% de la población que participa en los Juegos Mundiales Universitarios, en los últimos Juegos Mundiales Universitarios, de los últimos 10 años, de las últimas 2, 4, 6, 8 ediciones, desde el 99 hasta el 2013, han sido mujeres.
It shows quite promising figures, as 41% of the participation was women in the 2nd, 4th, and 8th edition between 1999 and 2013.
Algo importante para destacar en nuestra presentación es el incremento en el número de participantes en la composición del comité ejecutivo.
I would like here to highlight the increase of participation in the executive committee.
También destacamos que nuestra organización en el 2011 firmó, en el marco de los Juegos Mundiales Universitarios en Shenzhen, la Declaración de Bridgetown.
also wants to emphasize that in August 2011, during the Games in Shenzhen, China, FISU signed the Brighton Declaration.
A partir de ese momento, FISU se convierte en organización aliada de la IWJ.
That's when FISU becomes an allied partner of the IWJ.
Invitando a las diferentes organizaciones de nuestra federación a firmar y asumir los acuerdos de dicha declaración.
We are currently inviting all the federations, member of our organization, to sign the agreements and assume what is in the Brighton Declaration.
Para concluir, quisiera indicarles que las mujeres en el deporte tenemos la fuerza y el poder para liderar y transformar nuestro entorno.
To conclude, I want to say that women in sport have the strength and power to lead the transformation of our environment.
Y ahora quiero saber dónde están esos creativos que tienen y han asumido el compromiso de hacer el cambio.
And I want to see again where are these creative men and women who are committed to making the change?
Where?
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 I ask you.
Okay, stop.
Please stand. Stand up.
Les pido por favor,
And I ask
celebremos la decisión del compromiso del cambio con un aplauso.
to celebrate this compromise, to celebrate this,
Compromiso de hacer cambio.
what is it now? It's pledged with a clap of hands.
Gracias. Ahora invito a mi compañera de comité, Sima Limoochi, a compartir una experiencia de lo que produce FISU en el deporte universitario en Irán.
And now I would like to invite our sister from Iran to come to the rostrum and share with us what can be accomplished through FISU.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosaura. Our next speaker is Mrs. Sima Limoochi from Iran, and she will introduce us to Iranian university sports in her next speech. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so happy to be here on behalf of all of Iranian women and girls University of Sport. And thanks to Hilkka, I will follow the session with the role of women in Assessor University in sport activities. Should I change this? Is there a problem, please? Yes. I would like to give you some very few information about my country, Islamic Republic of Iran, located at Western Asia and 77 million population, and capital is Tehran. Official language is Persian. University student, the total number of university students is 4,367,901 students totally, and half of this population are girls and women. The number of universities and faculties in Iran, 2,500 university and higher education centers are in my country, and full-time faculty members of 68,552 members. These are full-time faculty members. There are some other people, faculty members, that they are not full-time. Total number of students, as I mentioned before, is 4,367,901. And they are educating in the higher education centers, non-profit universities, and private universities too. A sport department in university level in Iran are managed under the umbrella of 4 departments, different departments, under the support of Ministry of Science, Technology, and National Student Sport Federation, FISU family in Iran, Physical Education Department of the Ministry of Science, Research and Technology, Research Institute for Physical Education and Sport, and Physical Education faculties. The important point that I would start with this important issue is taking religious values and national laws in Iran into consideration for practical session and training courses and training disciplines such as table tennis, basketball, swimming, so on and so forth. It is mandatory for female students to have female instructors or trainers, the same as men have to have the same situation. This issue has made a big change in the Iranian women status, as the university women had to promote themselves first in order to provide more suitable conditions for women university students. This situation has provided an opportunity for women such that women in Iran have achieved a great academic and scientific status. I'm going to share with you about the Azara University. Azara University is the only or exclusively university for girls and women in Iran. It was founded in 1964. In the beginning, the educational center began giving its services at the Higher Educational Institute for Girls. And the number of first students were 90. Azara University faculties divided in 8 faculties: physical education and sports sciences, literature, languages and history, basic sciences, social sciences and economics, engineering, educational and psychology, theology, and art. Physical education and sport activities at Azara University mainly are managed by 2 main departments. The first one is Faculty of Physical Education and Sport Sciences, and the second one is Physical Education and Sport Office. Number of current students in the first faculty is 356 students. 240 is undergraduates, and the other 116 are postgraduate. Number of graduated so far is 2,000. For the first time at Azara University, PhD course in sport physiology for girls will open in upcoming September, which is considered as a great achievement for this university. Of course, I have to add that there are some other universities that they are conducting PhD degree, but for this university, who is conducted only by women instructors and faculty members, this is the first time for us to have this new achievement. Students study in 3 sub-majors. Faculty members are 13, education experts are 3, and official staff are 10. And 3 majors that I was talking about, that sport physiology, motor behavior, and sport management. Physical education and sport office is comprised of a sport for all deputy and championship level. This office has to, the duty of this office is to improving and enhancing for the first health and fitness and joy for about 9,000 students, international and national students. There are lots of activities that in this office we have to do and organize for students. About seven official women are working in this office, a director, 2 public assistants, and so on and so forth, and making a sports team and organizing competitions for inside the university and for the national level. And this is worthwhile to mention that all the activities are conducted by women. Of course, we have to organize and to organize for dorm students who are 40% of Assessor universities. In the championship levels, we have to provide the situation for students to be involved in the championship level and provide the situation for them to have training camps, to have to participate in a national Olympiad, university Olympiad, in a league, national league for the university student, and also for the national league for the non-students, for the other organizations. Having some educational activities like seminars, workshops, just to increase their knowledge, to increase their information about the physical activity and health, physical activity and sport, and every related issues. And there are some other disciplines or sport like swimming, aerobics, morning exercises, table tennis, badminton, and so on, that we have to provide the situation for these 9,000 students to be involved in this regard too. As I mentioned we have a different competition in the local level, in the national level, like taekwondo and so on. And also they are preparing for the next upcoming Olympiad in the last of the July this year. And as you will see, national student sport competitions, regional competition, as I mentioned before, festival for light student, also national Olympiads, competitions for foreign students. We have from the some neighbors that they are studying in our university. And there are some other activities that I mentioned about that before for setting up the university sport councils, increasing and enhancing their knowledge about the physical education and sport. And there are some different kinds of workshops and seminars that we are providing for them, just to increase the knowledge of women and girls students about the sport. And conclusion, this is very, very important for all Iranian women, because due to some opportunities that we received in the past years, a point of paramount importance is that 90% of the faculty members and employed people in this university, except the sport departments, are female. But in both sport departments, physical education faculty and also physical education and sport office, 100% organized by women. The statistics presented were aimed at illustrating women's limitless potential in a small part of the world that is Assessor University. Enhancing their level of knowledge and expertise, women at Assessor University could well lead academic communities, taking advantage of their experience and relying on their self-confidence. Being a role model, Assessor University exemplifies these achievements and experiential and scientific management by women. Considering the segregation of some occupational environments due to their religious and national values, women at Assessor University had to begin and lead the change, which well accorded with our conference team. After making some changes, trial and error stage, they could be, they changed themselves in the course of time. It has been a great achievement that women, without needing men's help, could successfully manage and lead a university of 10,000 students, staff, and faculty members. Last but not least, Assessor University can be introduced as a role model in the world. Thank you very much for your attention.
Our next topic will be women in university sport as role models in society. Ms. Lotte, Uutinen and Natasha Campos will give examples of some past medalists who have achieved university degrees and succeeded in their careers later. Please.
Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. My name is Natasha.
And my name is Lotte.
So for us, FISU, today's stars are the leaders of tomorrow.
Bueno, las estrellas de hoy son los líderes de mañana.
First of all, we're going to present some of the role models and very important athletes that have impact, not only as athletes, but also as sometimes as politics, sometimes that have administrative roles, as teachers, and of course as a role model in society. The first one is Jessica Ennis from Great Britain. She is a track and field athlete, and she is the first senior international and her first senior international competition was in 2005, FISU Summer Universiade, where she won the bronze medal in the heptathlon. In 2007, she graduated from the University of Sheffield in psychology. And in 2012, she won the gold medal at the heptathlon at the London Olympics. Then she was voted as the most inspirational figure under 25 years old by the organization UK Youth. And also, she is the ambassador for the Jaguar Academy of Sport and a patron of the Sheffield Children's Hospital Charity and Very Well Sport Foundation. She is also a columnist for the Times newspaper. Lead the change, be an ambassador. We are able to become ambassadors, and we are able to become leaders. Meanwhile, we're in the university. Meanwhile, we show to the world what we can do through sports.
About our next sportswoman, we will first see a video.
When she was a little girl in Romania, she flirted with gymnastics and swimming. But when it appeared that she might not make it to the top, she switched to track and field. Her name? Gabriela Szabo, one of the great names to make her way to the top via the University Games. She was a star on the Universiade Athletics track in 1995 when she won double gold in Fukuoka in the 1500 and 5,000 meters. Gold again in the 1500 in Sicily in 97. She won Olympic silver in 96, and in Sydney 4 years later, she took gold in the 5,000 and bronze in the 1500. She was also a triple world champion, and her latest role, in March she became Romania's Minister of Youth and Sport.
Trebuie să recunosc că și pentru mine a fost o surpriză.
You know, I have to admit that having been nominated as a minister was a surprise for me. Once I'd finished my career as an athlete in 2004, I realized that I was tired and that my body and spirit weren't able to carry on at a high level. It was a surprise for everybody because it was a sudden decision, so no one was really expecting it. I didn't feel like attending another Olympic Games, though. I'd rather prefer people have a good memory of me, such as Gabi Sabo on the podium. I decided to pursue my studies and stay in the academic world. I studied physical and sports education for 7 years, and I finished my PhD in 2010. It's a lifetime experience, and I hope I'll be able to help in the sports world in Romania with it.
Sper să facem lucruri bune pentru sportul român.
As we saw in the video, a very successful track and field athlete, Gabriela Sabo from Romania. Also, she participated in the Universiade in '95 and has after that won several Olympic medals. She has done academic studies and holds still many positions of trust, and has also got the honorary title of Romanian Tourism Ambassador. This year, she was appointed Minister of Youth and Sports. Lead the change and become a minister.
Why not? Our next example is Sari Essayah from Finland. And we feel very honored because she is here today with us. So could you please stand up? Let's give her an applause. Many of these females that we are showing today start their career as athletes a long time ago. And they also have a long time in university sport level. She was a race walking athlete, and she won bronze in Duisburg Universiade and gold in Sheffield University. She is also world champion and won a lot of medals in European championships. Sari Essayah is also a Master of Science, have a Master of Science degree in Business Administration of the University of Vasa. And she was elected to the Finnish Parliament as the chairman of the parliamentary group from 2004 and 2007. She also got elected to the European Parliament and joined the group of the European People's Party. But also, she continued her work in sports. She is a member of the Finnish Athletics Association in Economics and Marketing Committee. And she is also Finland's delegate on the Race Walking Committee. Lead the change, get elected.
Next up, we have a sportswoman from Germany, Katrin Matschderod, ice speed skating athlete, also participated in the Universiade in 2009, and in Vancouver Olympics won the gold medal in team pursuit. She has studied economics in Berlin, and now she is the coordinator for the Olympic centers near Berlin and Brandenburg. Lead the change and dare to coordinate.
Our next example is Sara Nemati from Iran. She was majored in plant medicine and tourism, and she held a black belt in Taekwondo and won a bronze medal in national competition. Afterwards, she experienced a serious accident. Even though she considers sport as a means of getting back to life and society, and she chose archery, and she was determined to once again achieve a wealth of honors for herself and for the Iranian nation. Within 6 months, she could participate in the national championship and was ranked as the 3rd place among the able-bodied. She was also invited into the able-bodied archery national team. She had a gold in individual and bronze in team medals in London 2012 in Paralympic Games. And she also have the Sport Accord Award. Lead the change, get back and get it.
Next up, we have Brooke Hanson from Australia, who is one of Australia's most recognized Olympians. This woman started swimming already when she was 4 years old and has won medals at the Summer Universiade in '99, and after that also Olympic medals. She studied at a university where she learned skills that she still values and have used in her life beyond university and also during the time on top-level sport. The values that she applies to both business and sports are exactly what she put into her years as a swimmer. She is running her own website and also working for her family business Hanson Media Group. She has made an interesting career in media as TV personality, completing now the 5th series and 70 episodes as the female television presenter on Australia's 9 networks, Discover Down Under. Also, after retiring from competitive swimming, she wrote her own book, When Silver is Gold, and she loves nothing more than to share her inspirational story with everyone she meets. Lead the change, communicate, and inspire.
Our next example is Mary Onyali from Nigeria. She is popularly called the Queen of Nigerian Sprints. That's a very good way of calling her. She won over 18 different medals in her career. Sport was never a priority when she was growing up. Her father passed away when she was a very young child. This is a very important point because sport is also a very good way for young girls to go through very difficult situations. Her mother constantly emphasized the importance of their education, and she was all the time telling her to be very correct in her studies. That's why she got a scholarship in the US at Texas Southern University in 1985. Afterwards, she started practicing sport and she became the NCAA champion, nothing more than that. Mary is now a special advisor to the Director General of the National Sport Commission and an advocate for youth games. Professionally, a consultant and a successful businesswoman during her college days. She operates a sportswear manufacturing company that is called Yali Yali Enterprises in Houston, Texas. So she is also a businesswoman. Lead the change, apply, and fly. Also, sport is a good way for a lot of women to apply scholarships and be able to keep on studying.
Next woman comes from Jamaica, Grace Jackson, who is a famous track and field athlete and an activist, Olympic medalist also. She has 2 degrees, one in Masters of Sports Science and Masters of Arts. She works as a sport development director at the University of the West Indies and has worked there for quite a while and done a really good job in improving the possibilities for students to do sports. For example, she has increased the number of overseas tournaments in which student athletes can participate and also increased the number of sports practiced in the university. She has been also very actively involved in different organizations. For example, in FISU, she was member of the Education Committee in 1999 to 2003, and in the International Association of Athletic Federation, member of the Women's Committee, and also in the Jamaican Athletic Association, she has been first vice president and chairman of Competitions Committee. Lead the change and be an activist.
Our next example is Dawn Staley from USA. She has a medal record. She was also assistant of the Universiade and also to the Olympic Games as a basketball player. She is a baccalaureate in rhetoric and communication studies of the University of Virginia, and she has an illustrious career in Women's National Basketball Association League. Also, she received the Kimper Trot Sportsmanship Award and won the WNBA Entrepreneurial Spirit Award. Dawn Staley created the Dawn Staley Foundation, where she encouraged her teams to pursue community service and opportunities. She is also a very famous spoken person for the American Health Association. She has a quote that it says, "It is important for me to give back because I have been given so much." How many people here feel that sport have given a lot to your life? Please raise your hand. How many of us want to give back what we have received? Next one. Lead the change and encourage other girls to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I have an honor to invite Mr. Risto Nieminen and Mrs. Alison Odell on stage. Mr. Nieminen is president of Finnish Sports Confederation and Finnish Olympic Committee.
Risto, you have been a member of and a friend of FISU for a long time, and we are hugely delighted to be here this week, especially with the posts that you now hold within Finnish University Sport. Congratulations and thank you for your welcome this week.
Thank you all. I'm not going to say a lot because this was a surprise to me, total. I think the last theme was very interesting, to give back. I think that's the most important parts of the sports culture. That comes with the professional attitude of professional athletes, and that must come with people who have enjoyed sports during their university time and study time. That was my choice after I retired. I spent every hour, just about every hour of my day in the Finnish sports, and I feel privileged to do so, and I hope the next generation will do the same. And this was the lesson from my FISU friends from the years a couple of decades back. Thanks to all. Thanks, Alison. Thanks, Hilkka. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy yourselves.
But now I'm getting quite excited because next there will be a world premiere. FISU Gender Equality Committee has produced a tutorial video about women in university sports. It was planned and designed by Mrs. Natasha Campos together with FISU office. And next you will all see a video called We Are the Change. It will take about 15 minutes, so relax and just watch. Thank you.
I just loved being active and being in sport.
example, I slept 2 hours, I wrote the exam, I passed, I was so happy. The next day I went on the ice and had to practice again. So it was hard, but I'm happy that I could do it. Everything is possible to manage, only to find a way how to do it, to be a good athlete and good student in one time.
If you want to be good, you need to work many hours per day. But when you are working so hard, you are getting stronger every day. This learned me not to give up, never. Just if something is going wrong, you must try once again, and finally the target will be yours.
Brazil is living a moment in which our country is governed by a woman who is our supreme leader and who was leader in the bid for the Universiade too. So we have women involved in Brazil, in the management of sport and also doing sport. In our organization program of the Universiade, there is space dedicated to women. The issue of gender equality is a very well-worked issue in Brazil, as we live in a democratic country, where not only women, but all differences are treated naturally. We observe everyone equally. This also depends on the federations and the universities themselves. Thus, it represents a pyramid that we often wish to control from the top, and also depends on other structures, which from a federal point of view, need to believe in it.
For me, it's about educating, and I mean this the right way, to understand that women, if they are competent, should have an equal opportunity. But I do also believe that women have to demonstrate their competency to achieve a higher role.
I invited so many times women working with me, and they were reluctant. When I invited younger people, they found it quite natural.
Sports has given me a lot of exposure. I've had the opportunity to travel different countries, having learning experience, which I take back home. I think it's really done a lot of great things to my personal life and also to my professional work.
Sometimes women are a little bit too shy and they do not have self-confidence, they do not trust in their skills and knowledge, and they are not doing a step forward as men do. Often men do not ask, can I do the job? They just do it. For me, the most important is that women trust in their knowledge and in their skills and in their power.
I was asked to get involved in administration just after I'd retired from work. So for me, this was just an automatic progression into giving something back to the sport.
In my younger days, I felt I had to prepare everything twice as well as everybody else in the room, just to make sure that I got the message across, even if I was presenting something similar to a man next to me. But that's changing now.
The situation is so different in all the different countries and continents. So we need, first of all, a bigger understanding about the situation in each country to really make the right actions.
It's not about winning trophies, medals, or first places, but about gaining experiences by following a dream.
But not only for women, but also for men. That is to say, the values and what sport can do in terms of respect, requirements, sacrifice. They are values that are often required by society.
FISU is helping me to learn that we could be leaders and that we could be people that back in our countries do great things, and that we don't have just to be there waiting for somebody to help us. We have to do it. It's really important from the area that I come from, which is Oceania. There is a really big maternal influence there, but they're not recognised by the male-dominated societies. So to have FISU promote policies and activities that create equality for women in those societies is really important.
And what that means is that the women then are empowered to go back into those communities and create a difference. And that's what FISU is all about.
The International University Sports Federation, FISU, was founded in 1949 in order to promote sports values and encourage sports practice in higher education institutions. Composed of 167 national university sports federations, FISU organises multi-sport events in odd-numbered years, the summer and winter universiads, and single sport events in even-numbered years, the World University Championships. Besides its sporting events, FISU stages educational events, the most important of which are the FISU Forum and the FISU Summer and Winter Conferences.
FISU es una organización que nace en las universidades.
FISU is an organisation which was created within the universities. Since its foundation, universities have been gradually incorporating the topic of gender equality, and FISU, as a university organisation, has been committed from the start to specifically work with the participation of athletes in the different events. Events such as the Universiads, Championships, and one very important aspect developed by FISU is its policy to include gender equality in the educational activities.
En las actividades académicas.
The best policy we have done and we still are doing is to give the same importance quantitatively and qualitatively to the events organized for men and events organized for women. Obviously, we are fighting for having more women involved in our activities, from the student level to the highest level of the management of the organization.
I think we've been quite successful in adapting a clear policy on how we want to approach the gender area. Now we have a clear policy on how to approach the selection of people, making sure we have women and men as leaders, making sure we have a composition group that attracts both genders. And I think we also have become better in making sure that the sports program reflects both gender needs. There is still much to do, I think, in this area for us, but I think we're taking quite long steps in short time.
A few international federations in the world have so many female chairs as FISU has. We have 1/3 of the chairs in FISU. Committees are female, and this shows for me that women in our federation have the right skills, the right knowledge, and the right behavior to chair an important and permanent committee in FISU.
With regard to the Education Committee, there is a real gender balance. There are 6 men and 6 women.
FISU es una organización que...
FISU is an organisation that has, since 2007, taken its first steps by creating the Women's and Sports Committee. However, even though its creation dates back to 2007, FISU has for many years already been working on developing gender equality projects as well as equality in all of its activities. Championships, universiads, and in different educational events. In 2011, FISU developed a policy which leads to the creation and official recognition of the Gender Equality Committee. It also establishes statutes and policies describing the organisation's daily work towards the pursuit of equality, which makes our organisation different, an organisation created within universities.
De las universidades.
In the way that we manage the forum, we have actually, in facilitating workshops, for example, we've tried to place a senior person who may be man or woman with a man or woman from the student committee as well, and make sure that there's one from each gender helping to manage workshops. In the speakers that we invite to our conferences and to the forum, we try and establish a reasonable balance. Another area that the Education Committee is responsible for is managing the scholarship programmes within FISU. And one of those scholarship programmes is a gift from the city of Daegu to celebrate the 2003 Games that we had. The specific designation for those 3 scholarships is that 2 will be for women and 1 for a man. So we're promoting the role of women opportunities for student athletes to gain both academically and on the field of sport.
The HELP program put in place by the International University Sports Federation for FISU's major events takes into consideration this factor, because it allows to have 4 persons, 2 women and 2 men, either students or officials. I think this is an important way to foster this willingness within continental and national federations.
El premio de la igualdad de género de FISU.
The FISU Gender Equality Award is an award that's granted to projects, persons or programs that are developed in the framework of universities and university sport. The Round Table represents an opportunity that FISU created 4 years ago in order to invite university sport leaders to mainly discuss gender equality matters with university sport actors during the Universiad. We invite different leaders, we meet one afternoon and discuss the work done and future proposals. And we develop a proposal that is presented to the FISU authorities as a product of this meeting. The objective is to learn about the activities carried out in university sport, in international federations, in other organisations to develop gender equality, in view of promoting more equitable and fair organisations which allow men and women to work together.
FISU is an organization that is directed to the young people of the world, the future leaders of the world. And the slogan of FISU is today's stars, tomorrow's leaders. From my opinion, it is very important that FISU would be a role model for these people, for these students, showing how important it is that both men and women would have equal opportunities in their life.
My experience is this is very much a knowledge issue. If you have a clear knowledge about research, about facts and figures concerning gender dimensions, then you improve your work also on the field as well, in the federations and also in the local sport clubs.
Sport is equity by itself, in itself. And also it's fighting spirit and also sports spirit, fair play.
Now I want to thank everyone for taking part in this FISU session. It was really nice to share our knowledge and ideas about the issue, but now we are running out of time and there's no time, unfortunately, for questions and answers. But you can, of course, contact us during coffee in next days. Thank you.